Hi there, and welcome to our podcast. And this week at London Visited, we look at the iconic telephone box. Yes, the iconic red telephone box that everyone comes to London and has their picture taken in. We're going to tell you all about this iconic object of London. My name's Steve, and each week I'll bring to you the facts, history and information about different parts and different things related to this great capital. If you've been to London, are planning on visiting, live here, or just love London from afar, then this is the podcast for you. Don't forget to visit our YouTube channel, London Visited, to see so many videos covering all different places across London and also many different objects as well. And now to this week's podcast. The red telephone box, or telephone kiosk, is a public telephone which was designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott and is a familiar sight on the streets of London. Despite a reduction in their numbers in recent years, the traditional British red telephone kiosks can be seen in many places throughout the UK and in current or former British colonies around the world. The colour red was chosen to make them easy to spot. From 1926 onwards, the fascias of the kiosks were emblazoned with a permanent crown representing the British government. The red telephone box is often seen as a British cultural icon throughout the world. In 2006, the K2 telephone box was voted one of Britain's top 10 design icons, which included the Mini, Supermarine Spitfire, London Tube App, World Wide Web, Concorde and the AEC Routemaster bus. Although production of the traditional boxes ended with the advent of the KX series in 1985, many still stand across the UK. The red telephone box was the result of a competition in 1924 to design a kiosk that would be acceptable to the London metropolitan boroughs, which had hitherto resisted the Post Office's early effort of telephone boxes. The Royal Fine Art Commission was instrumental in the choice of the British Standard kiosk. Because of widespread dissatisfaction with the GPO's design, the Metropolitan Boroughs Joint Standing Committee organised a competition for a superior one in 1923. But the results were disappointing. The Birmingham Civic Society then produced a design of its own, in reinforced concrete. But it was informed by the Director of Telephones that the design produced by the Office of the Engineer-in-Chief was preferred. As the Architects' Journal commented, no one with any knowledge of design could feel anything but indignation with a pattern that seems to satisfy the official mind. The Birmingham Civic Society did not give up, and with additional pressure from the Royal Institute of British Architects, the Town Planning Institute and the Royal Academy, the Postmaster General was forced to think again. And the result was that the Royal Fine Art Commission organised a limited competition. The organisers invited entries from 3 respected architects, and, along with designs from the Post Office and the Birmingham Civic Society, the Fine Arts Commission judged the competition and selected the design submitted by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott. The invitation had come at a time when Scott had been made a trustee of the Sir John Soanes Museum. His design for the competition was in the classical style, but topped with a dome reminiscent of Sloane's self-designed mausoleums at St Pancras' Old Churchyard and Dulwich Picture Gallery in London. The original wooden prototypes of the entries were later put into public service at undercover sites around London. That of Scott's design is the only one known to survive, and it is still where it was originally placed, in the left entrance to the arch of the Royal Academy. The Post Office chose to make Scott's winning design in cast iron. Scott had suggested mild steel, and to paint it red, Scott had originally suggested silver with a greeny blue interior. And, with other minor changes of detail, it was brought into service as Kiosk No. 2, or K2. From 1926, K2 was deployed in and around London. K3, Kiosk 3, was introduced in 1929, again by Giles Gilbert Scott, and was similar to K2, but was constructed from concrete and intended for national use. Cheaper than the K2, it was still significantly more costly than the original K1, and so remained the choice for low-revenue sites. From 1926 onwards, the fascias of the Post Office kiosks were emblazoned with a permanent crown, representing the British government, of which the Post Office was an agency. The design was initially the Tudor crown, then in widespread use in government service. The same crown was used in all parts of the UK and the British Empire. On the K2 design, the design was pierced through the ironwork and acted as a ventilation hole. On the K6 model introduced in the 1950s, a separate ventilation slot was provided, and the crown was embossed in bas relief. In 1953, the new Queen, Elizabeth II, decided to replace the Tudor crown in all contexts with a representation of the actual crown, generally used for British coronations, the St Edward's crown. This new symbol therefore began to appear on the fascias of K6 kiosks. With the phase out and less use of red telephone boxes, now those that are hardly used can be adopted by parish councils in England for other uses. Some examples I'm going to tell you about. The kiosk can be used for any legal purpose other than telephony, and the contract of sale includes the following clause. 5.5.4. The buyer shall covenant not to sell, lease or license the goods to a competitor to the seller, nor to permit a competitor to install electronic communications apparatus, as defined in Schedule 2 of the Telecommunications Act 1984, within the goods or itself, as the buyer shall not install, provide or operate any form of electronic communication apparatus, as defined in Schedule 2 of the Telecommunications Act 1984, within the goods. In a nutshell, you can buy it, you can sell it to other people, or you can lease it to other people. But guess what? You can never install electronic communications. In other words, any other type of telephone. It's unclear why BT wishes to prohibit the kiosk from being reused for electronic communications, and why the regulator, Ofcom, has allowed it. In the US, there is an active movement seeking new telecom uses for little-used telephone booths, for example, as Wi-Fi hotspots. During 2009, a K6 kiosk in the village of Westbury sub Mendip in Somerset was converted into a library, or book exchange, replacing the services of the mobile library, which no longer visits the village. Similar libraries now exist in other villages, including North Cadbury in Somerset, Great Budworth in Cheshire, Little Shelford and Upwood in Cambridgeshire, and some 150 other locations. One such box was donated by Cumbernauld Town Twinning Association and installed as a library in Bron, France. Also in 2009, the town of Settle in North Yorkshire established the Gallery on the Green in a K6 kiosk box, which had been adopted by the parish council. The gallery has featured a range of exhibitions of both notable artists and photographers and local community groups. Its most famous contributor was Brian May with his stereoscopic photography show, A Village Lost and Found. Following a competition by a Girl Guide unit in 2011 to find the use for their local disused telephone box in Argyll, it was fitted with a defibrillator. The equipment can be accessed only following the instructions from the Scottish Ambulance Service during an emergency call. The conversion of the box was paid for by BT under the Adopt a Kiosk scheme, and the defibrillator was supplied by the Community Heartbeat Trust. Similar installations have now been made in other places, and the numbers continue to grow. In 2016, British chef Gordon Ramsay opened a British-themed fish restaurant in the Las Vegas Strip, with the doors to the entrance resembling those of the red telephone box. So, I hope you've enjoyed our in-depth look at the iconic red telephone box so associated with London. Whatever podcast service you use to listen to this, please do subscribe to get updates on new shows, and also please do leave us some feedback. Also, let me know any places you'd like us to feature in future podcasts, or alternatively, any iconic items associated with London. You can let me know through our website www.londonvisited.co.uk, by emailing me directly on londonvisited@gmail.com, or you can contact us on Twitter and Instagram on @LondonVisited, or alternatively on Facebook on @TheLondonVisited. Thanks for listening. Really hope you enjoyed our podcast, and we'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.